You're listening to The Jay Barker Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Come on now. Even the most dire Alabama, just dyed-in-the-wool Crimson fan has to get a little bit of a kick out of Lane Kiffin. Lars, did you see his text this morning at 6:41? Not his text, his ex, I guess. It's going to take me a while to shift to that. But he sent out a song by Taylor Swift about dying or falling dynasties. Now, I guess a lot of people would find that offensive. I just find that very funny.
Yeah, he loves to just poke at Alabama, and you know he likes to play mind games. He forced Nick Saban to address who was actually calling the defensive play calls, who was the acting defensive coordinator. It's just Lane being Lane. And I think college football is better when he is a head coach, especially in the SEC.
And then after claiming that Kevin Steele wasn't calling the signals, he claimed that wasn't what he meant. So he can get a little tiresome, and sometimes I believe his targets are a little below the belt. But for the most part, I think he's good for college football. He's good for the SEC, and good grief, he's good for this rivalry. I mean, you just face what he's done since he's been at Oxford. So there's my lead with, I never thought I'd lead about a song by Taylor Swift, which, by the way, do you listen to that lady, to her, Lars? Just curious.
I have a little bit. I'm not a big Taylor Swift person, but certainly appreciate her. That's for certain. Her and dating Travis Kelce.
And is that a given now? Is that up there in People magazine?
He keeps hinting at it, and so he's not denying it.
She's not my type in that area either. So anyway, Lars, I imagine you were sitting there with your channel changer or your picture-in-picture or whatever. You watching a lot of Monday Night Football last evening?
Yeah, absolutely. And, man, the most controversial play involved former Alabama player Minkah Fitzpatrick coming in low on Nick Chubb. And when Nick Chubb was at Georgia, I did a long story on him, and Minkah was just so great to deal with when he was at Alabama. He was just so smart. He can just break down and analyze different plays. And I had him sort of drop a couple of different things for me one time, and I was just really just taken back by how well he knew the game. And so those two had a collision. Again, Minkah Fitzpatrick coming in hard, kind of late in a play, and just it was a gruesome injury suffered by Nick Chubb, and it's the same knee that he injured in college, and Chubb is done for the season. A lot of people are just wondering if it was a dirty hit, if it was fair, and I think a lot of people, you can hear arguments from both sides, and I would defer to real hardcore football people to determine if that was clean or dirty. But I feel really bad for Nick Chubb. When I was in Athens for a piece, I remember just sitting kind of in a conference room with him, and the size of his thighs, it was like the size of my waist. I mean, one thigh was equal to my waist. I could not believe. I've never seen anybody with thighs that big. He just struck me as a very nice, soft-spoken young man. And this is just an absolutely devastating injury for the Browns, and especially, obviously, for Nick Chubb. And it could be difficult for him to just make it all the way back, because he was just playing at such a high level. He was really the Browns' best player, I think, because Deshaun Watson is just a shell of himself ever since he came back from that long suspension. But did you get a chance to see that hit involving Fitzpatrick and Chubb?
I'm trying to watch it right now, but no, I didn't see it live.
Yeah.
I'm watching the replay as we speak.
it's pretty gruesome. But bigger picture is a big win for Pittsburgh, and Cleveland really had a chance to put a little separation between themselves and the Steelers and the Bengals in that division, but Deshaun Watson couldn't get it done. I mean, and I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback get flagged for 2 personal foul penalties in my life, but Deshaun Watson managed to do that last night by grabbing the face masks of different guys as he was kind of going out of bounds, trying to stiff arm, and he threw both of the players. It is a clear face mask and an unnecessary roughness, but so really some boneheaded mistakes by Deshaun Watson, who I don't know if he'll ever justify that $230 million contract. I mean, forget about all the off the field stuff, Matt, but I'm glad I'm not a Browns fan, because I find it hard to root for Deshaun Watson.
I do too. Not as much as the players, his attitude, his actions, which I think we can agree have been proven. That's just kind of disgusting, to be honest with you. Man, last night he did not play like a guy that deserved $250, $400, $500 million. And now that Chubb is down, the pressure is on him even more so, and Cleveland's going to lean on him. And when it doesn't go well, Cleveland's going to bail on him. Don't you think it gives him a lot easier trigger to pull with what he's making and what he put everybody through?
The guaranteed money just absolutely hamstrings Cleveland. They can't, it would be a salary cap suicide to move on from Deshaun Watson. So they're tied to him, for the next several years. I just don't see how you can get out of that contract.
Nobody's going to buy it.
No. I mean, nobody's going to take it on. And, that goes back to the owner and the decision to, you trade away 3 first draft picks for the guy, and you give him this absurd contract that screwed up negotiations for all these other players, quarterbacks especially, because it's such an aberrant contract, and so just with the $230 million guaranteed. So Cleveland, if they don't get it done now, if they don't get it done soon, I should say, they're looking at sort of a stripped down rebuild, because again, they're going to be losing these draft picks coming up, these first round picks. And they also lost one of their top offensive linemen in week 1. So injuries have really hit the Browns hard. But did you catch either of the games last night?
Yeah, I watched a lot of the last of it and was really pulling for Bryce as he put on a very Alabama-like drive late. Got him in for a score, then completed a 2-point conversion.
I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, it was great. That was a very Alabama-like play, the 2-point conversion, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean,
and it also really hurt those of us who had New Orleans +3, because it turned it into a push. But
could have been worse.
That's right. But Bryce Young, he's not lighting the league on fire, and I think he's still. And every quarterback goes through this. He's still adjusting to the accelerated speed of the game. That's what it appears to me, and that he's just a touch late on a few different throws, a few different reads, but. He's an exciting player. I think eventually he'll get it figured out, and I think he'll be, like a top 10 quarterback in the league for a long time. And he plays a different style, right? Because he's shorter at 5'10", and he has to create his passing lanes. But he's so good at maneuvering in the pocket. And I think if I were the Panthers, I think they made the right pick. What have you seen so far out of Bryce?
I've seen rookie quarterback trying to adjust to the speed of the National Football League. Yeah. I read the other day, you've probably seen this too, that the last first-round, first-pick quarterback to win his opening game was David Carr.
No.
Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
What was that, 20-something years ago? Close to it. Anyway, the scores from last night, the Saints held on to beat the Panthers by a score of 20-17. Steelers over the Browns, 26-22. And I'll say one thing as we go to break here. You know, there are rivalries and there are teams that just hate each other. And the Browns and Steelers come into that ladder. Wow. Man, they just don't like each other. Hey, you're listening to Big Noon Sports, bottom of the hour, Mick Gillespie. When we come back, more information on Colorado and Colorado State. It just keeps pouring in. You're listening to Big Noon Sports, presented by Haley Sansing, Union Home Mortgage.
Laura Lee Thompson is known as the Bama Broker. She's a Tuscaloosa native, an Alabama graduate, and the only realtor in town with Wall Street experience. A skilled negotiator, Laura Lee knows how to buy low and sell high. And the Bama Broker isn't just going to show you houses. No, Laura Lee is going to educate you on the market, guide you to homes that fit your budget, and teach you how to sell your home for its maximum profit. Throughout the entire process, the Bama Broker will equip you with the tools you need to both buy a home and build financial wealth through home ownership. Trust me, the Bama Broker, who's as roll-tide as houndstooth, will get you across the goal line. That's Laura Lee Thompson, the Bama Broker with Advantage Realty Group. You can reach her at 205-790-7229. Again, that's 205-790-7229. And you can also email her at lauralee@thebamabroker.com. That's Laura Lee at thebamabroker.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A sunny, warm afternoon. The high today around 84. Clear tonight, the low 60. Tomorrow and Thursday, lots of sunshine both days. Highs between 84 and 87. And Friday, another sunny day with a high at 86 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 84 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
From T-Town to the Plains, this is Alabama's most in-depth analysis on the SEC. This is Big Noon Sports.
Ole Miss comes to Bryant-Denny Stadium this Saturday afternoon. Kickoff is at 2:30. We will talk at length about that game with Mick Gillespie, bottom of the hour. But this Colorado Deion primetime, it's electric. I mean, you get the feeling everybody in every house and every coffee house and bar is talking about Colorado, and a lot are. A lot were watching Saturday. 9.3 million watched the Colorado State game. And remember, that went into the wee hours of the morning, like after 1 hour time. But it is a little, you need to parenthetically note that the 9.3 million television viewers was the most watched late night game on ESPN. But still, that's some pretty staggering numbers, Lars, especially when you're staying up so late to watch something, was it 1 or 2 time zones away?
Yeah, and to watch Colorado State and have it garner that number, that just tells you the appeal, the broad-based across the country appeal of Deion Sanders and just the great portal experiment that he's undertaking. And you know, his son is really an exciting player, and it's an amazing story to go from 1-11 to now they're 3-0, and you know, I don't think their magical run is going to last too much longer. I really believe that Deion Sanders, he needs to kind of just like throttle everything back a little bit, because look, Colorado was a 24.5 point favorite, and they got outplayed by Colorado State. And I'm just wondering, like, if his players are just sort of like mentally fatigued, and also they're not used to suddenly they're getting everybody's best shot. You know, that Deion Sanders has attracted so many eyeballs to his program that everybody they play, it's like, you know, they're a Super Bowl, they're a bowl game. They want to be the first team to beat Colorado and Deion Sanders, and I just wonder, you know, if the players are just a little, I don't know, like I said, maybe just a little like fatigued by everything, and maybe not quite as sharp, because they were very, very fortunate to win that game on Saturday night. But hey, I tuned in. I mean, Deion Sanders, he just brings excitement. And you know, we've talked a lot about Deion Sanders, and he's not for everybody. He's not really for me, but the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. It's in the numbers, and he has just. I mean, I don't think you can even put a value on what he has brought to Colorado, and how much we talk about Colorado here in Alabama now. This is a team that was 1-11 last year. I mean, arguably like the worst team in all of the upper division of college football, and now you have them as the Buffs in playoff contention. I mean, it's crazy, and his son is right there in the Heisman conversation, and you know his son creates some magic on the field.
Boy, I like watching him play now. I can set all that other stuff aside, but he has got a very strong arm, a very accurate arm, and if he gets out of the pocket, he's going to burn you. And he really showed that late in the fourth quarter against the Rams. There's another story coming out, and that involves a hit that Henry Blackburn, the senior safety from Colorado State, had a hit on Colorado's two-way star Travis Hunter. It drew an unsportsmanlike conduct and warranted. But after that, Henry Blackburn has been threatened with death threats. That's a little redundant. Sorry about that. But he has received death threats for the hit on Travis Hunter. That's pushing it a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's pushing it a lot too far. So, sorry,
Yeah.
I even understated that. But I'll just never understand people. Why would you do that? It's just stupid.
Yeah, Hunter has come out and said that that he doesn't think it was that egregious of a hit. He's just like it's football, and I mean, and that's the thing, that these kind of plays are going to happen when this is a rivalry game. So there's that, but you're going to have just teams, I mean, coming at you with massive aggression. And he wasn't trying to take I don't think he was intentionally trying to take Travis Hunter out, but a lot of people have been talking about it. But the fact that Henry Blackburn of Colorado State has received death threats, and that his family has, and it's just I'm just telling you, there is some ugliness to this Colorado program. and I just, there's no place for death threats. That's for certain. I've never even heard of that. I've never heard of that in college football. Has that ever happened here at Alabama?
No, I
A
think
player?
some guys, I don't know about Alabama, but it does seem to me like not even recently, but I think somebody missed a huge kick and they received some kind of threat.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. Oh yes, you're right. Yes,
That's happened at the college level, but I think the most noted, unfortunately, was for Scott Norwood. The guy that hooked it right for the Bills. I mean, I still think to this day he can't show his face in public in Buffalo. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Even worse if you go to the fans and you go to Steve Bartman. But I don't know. This is a deep dive and a winding road.
And also, did you happen to see the fight between the Miami Dolphins fan and the New England Patriots? It was a Dolphins fan ended up striking a Patriots fan, and this guy was a season ticket holder for 30 years. And I believe his son was there, and the man fell and hit his head on the concrete, lost consciousness, and never regained consciousness and died. And yeah, it was just, it just makes you sick. It makes you sick. And, you know, I've thought about this as I want to take my son, Lincoln, he's 8, to a Titans game here, in 2 weeks. The Titans are hosting the Bengals. But I don't think I want to subject Lincoln to some of the things you see at NFL games, especially if you're an opposing fan. And NFL, I don't know if you've gone to one lately, but just the crudeness of behavior of certain fans, of course, and this is a broad brush here, but the crudeness just seems as horrible as ever. And, just the language, the verbal assault, and it's just, of course, it all has to do with alcohol. But it's a real tragedy in Foxborough on Sunday night. Yeah,
I'm not sure I want to watch it, but I'm assuming that they got it was a Boston fan that accosted a Dolphins fan, or
it appeared that it was a Dolphins fan that was the instigator, okay. But it's hard. It's hard to tell. And really not much information has been released on the man who punched the guy. Well, but if you're going to get,
don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. You may not.
Murder.
That's a manslaughter charge. If you're going to put yourself in that situation where you're going to throw a punch, you better be willing to accept the consequences of that. Certainly it was an unintended consequence, but this guy's going to be going to jail for a long time because he made an incredibly stupid decision.
I think it has escalated exponentially at the National Football League level, but it's true at college. It's true at high school. It's true at even lower levels, and that goes back to maybe not so much alcohol as it just in horrible judgment. But I understand your fear in taking Lincoln to a game, except from what I've seen of him on videotape, it doesn't matter. Nobody can catch you.
I wouldn't catch him, no.
Have you posted any of that on Twitter?
I did, yeah, that video good. I sent you.
You need to follow Lars for no other reason, just to see this kid dive.
Yeah, so it was the first play of the game, and the coach and I had talked, and he said, the first play of every game, they're going to run a jet sweep to Lincoln because the other opposing team, unless they've done some scouting on our team, we're the Rams, they won't really know what's coming. And so, I just filmed it. And I'm saying, all right, here we go. It's a jet sweep it's a jet sweep right. First play of the game, Lincoln, I just predicted he's going to go 80 yards for a touchdown. And sure enough, boom, just he said he's got a really incredible short area quickness, and then he can just turn on the burners and you're not going to catch him. It is so fun to watch it. It's fun to watch your kid play sports in general.
Oh, absolutely.
But when your kid is like the best player on the team, it just like, wow. This is what life is all about,
You're not one of those parents over riding the refs, are you?
No, not at all. No, but it's like, April and I will just look at each other like, how is he doing this? and I'll tell you, this is like power of sports too. Like, it has brought the mother of my children and myself a lot closer together. Because it's our kids out there, and it's just it's like all we focus on is the kids, and it's really helped our relationship.
Yeah, and that's a good thing too. So we'll have to. I'll have to go out there and watch him in person because what I've seen on videotape is quite impressive.
Andy almost hit a hole-in-one this weekend.
Yeah, you told me about
hit the
that.
Pin. Yeah, seven iron.
Hey, let's talk some Alabama football and some Major League Baseball. We're going to do that on the other side of this break as we will welcome in the Mick Man, Mick Gillespie. We'll talk to him on the other side of this break. You're listening to Big Noon Sports, brought to you by Haley Sansing.
Don't miss your...
Hey, this is Reagan, owner of R&R Cigars, the Cigar Mansion in downtown Tuscaloosa, located at 2703 6th Street across from the Home 2 Suites. Come down to R&R and see why we're the ultimate cigar and bourbon experience. With over 165 bourbons and 5 private barrels, our selection of bourbon is unmatched. We have the best cocktails around and our cigar selection is legendary. Our lounge and service are world-class. Come and experience the luxury of the mansion and see why it's a world-renowned cigar and spirits destination.
From T-Town to the Plains, this is Alabama's most in-depth analysis on the SEC. This is Big Noon Sports.
It is indeed Big Noon Sports. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, bottom of the hour, just past noon. Joining us now is our man, Mick Gillespie. Mick performs on many platforms for minor league baseball, does a pregame show. University of Alabama has a network of folks there. What else are you into these days, Mick Gillespie?
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, just started a couple of really cool YouTube channels. Bama Tailgate on YouTube, which has taken off, and it's been great kind of getting connected with everyone after On3 ended their Bama site last year that I worked on, and that's been fun. And then I do Cubs baseball channel. So I've got all my bases covered.
Mick, your thoughts on Alabama's struggle, to put it mildly, on Saturday in their 17-3 victory over South Florida?
Yeah, Lars, I've been concerned, and when I saw, late kick Josh talk about, basically imply that some guys didn't try hard because they weren't happy with the quarterback decision for the game. That really raised a lot of red flags to me, and I hope that he's wrong. I couldn't tell if that's, that happened or not. I mean, I watched a football game with a team that hasn't played well, and it just seemed to continue over, and some guys that, were on that offensive line that were injured, like Booker, who will be back this week probably. But that really makes me concerned. I mean, I saw something similar in 2000, when Alabama had Tyler Watts and Andrew Zhao, and then 99 was great. It was just an incredible season. And then 2000, it was one of the worst seasons ever. And people talked about a divided locker room. You can't win in any sport if the team's not all on the same page. And what worries me is if that's true, what Josh Pate said that he saw and then some other coaches agreed with, then this could be a really long season. Nick Saban has his toughest task ahead of him if that's the case. It's a little bit more than playing bad football. If players consciously make a decision not to play their best, you got to get rid of those players, and we're talking about game 4 of the season coming up. So it just might turn into, like in 2000, a disaster. And I certainly hope that's not the case.
Mick, that was my takeaway, was that, and I don't have any evidence of this. I haven't talked to anybody who has suggested this. This is just a gut feeling from someone who has been embedded with teams before, that Alabama has a locker room issue. And I'm wondering if the fact that that Nick Saban came out on Monday to say, hey, Jalen Milroe, he's not just our starter, he's our starter moving forward. If what precipitated what seems like a pretty quick decision is the fact that that there's maybe a fear that he's losing some players. Is that just way over analysis here, or do you think it's possible that could be going on behind the scenes?
Well, Matt asked me at the beginning of the show, he's like, hey, what all do you do? One of the other things I didn't mention was I'm on a podcast with Jay Coker, Roll Tide Pods. It's called Elephant in the Room. And, we've done 4 episodes this season. He was the quarterback in 2015 when Lane Kiffin was offensive coordinator. Alabama couldn't figure out who the quarterback was, him and I believe it was Cooper Bateman, going back and forth. And you go into that Ole Miss game, and neither guy knows who's going to be quarterback. And then eventually it was Jake. And then when he became quarterback and kind of had the opportunity to fill that role and be the leader, it made it easier for him, just because he wasn't going in questioning what his role was each week. So I hope that experience is what led Nick Saban to make the decision on Monday. But the other thing too is that we wanted to see what the other guys can do, because we saw Jalen Milroe and we saw him struggle in the pocket, and we saw him turn the ball over, and we also saw him do some really great stuff with deep passes and his ability to run, and we saw what he did against Middle Tennessee. But the problem is that we've also seen the quarterbacks that came before him, and he's far below par on, when you compare him to, Bryce Young, and who is on Bryce Young's level, but Mac Jones and Tua and Jalen Hurts. And the question is, first off, I feel like of the 3, he's the easy end after watching the game on Saturday. And there's not even a decision. I mean, by far the easy decision for him. But then the other question is, what is Tommy Rees doing to cater an offense that fits his strengths? And is Tommy Rees capable of doing that? That's the question that I have. We saw Tommy Rees at Notre Dame last year. They've had the same type of issues at Notre Dame where they struggle to figure out who the quarterback is. A lot of teams do. The team got a lot better, Notre Dame, last year as the season progressed. But we also saw them lose to Marshall and not move the football. And I've seen that. I mean, that's what we saw last week against South Florida. A good thing Alabama's defense, was up to the challenge. So I think it was good for Nick Saban to name Milroe, but I don't think that he had a choice. I mean, I did a video on Bama Tailgate on Sunday and basically said there is no choice. This is an easy decision, and then Saban obviously saw it that way, and so did the coaching staff, because Milroe was the QB. So I'm hoping that now that we can concentrate, or they can concentrate on having Milroe as the starting quarterback, then maybe if Rees is capable of it, build an offense that is built around this guy's strengths. And the thing about Milroe is that as much as he struggled in the pocket, and I thought he looked dazed and confused, I might have told you guys that, with Matthew McConaughey on the sideline against Texas, he's still explosive. I mean, even dazed and confused, he threw some bombs in that game, and he's always capable of running. And there were 2 touchdowns that got called back on plays where he just created when the offensive line wasn't blocking and he had to roll out. So, there's definitely a lot more upside right now with him compared to the other guys. And we'll see what the offense looks like against Ole Miss on Saturday.
It's all seemed very un-Saban-like from the announcement that Buckner was going to start, and I think that popped up late Thursday night, early Friday morning. And then how quickly Saban said, no, this is not working, and he went to Ty Simpson. And then on Monday, how quickly he gave it all back to Jalen Milroe. It's very un-Saban-like. I'd like for you to comment on that, first of all, Mick. And I can't get anybody to tell me why he didn't end up playing against the Bulls down in Tampa, because both quarterbacks for a while weren't working. Why didn't they put 4 in?
Yeah, I don't know. The same video I saw with Josh Pate where he suggested that Milroe might have been suspended. I didn't hear that, but he's probably got better sources than me. I love that Nick Saban said that one of the reasons that he felt comfortable starting him was how he supported the other quarterbacks when he wasn't playing. But I just didn't think that the other guys brought. Well, first off, look, the offensive line right now is the biggest disappointment on this team. You know, how many times in the offseason did we talk about how this season was going to really depend on this offensive line, road grader offensive line, which a lot of people called it, and they just have looked slow. They haven't blocked. The snaps haven't been consistent. And, the true freshman has been basically getting bowled around. And so you got to have somebody that can run, and maybe if it was a different offensive line, you'd feel more comfortable with Ty Simpson. But Buckner had that was the worst display of quarterbacking, guys, that I've ever seen at Alabama. And I'm talking about going back to when I first got there, Gene Stallings days. I'm trying to think of a guy that came into the game and looked worse than that. And, we all have those moments where maybe you get nervous or, you get into a spot and you're not at your best. You make a bad first impression or whatever it was. But I just can't remember a time where a guy came in and to a spot like that. I mean, even going back, let's think about the year Brody Croyle got hurt and Spencer Pennington came in. He was far better than this. And then Brandon Avalos came in, and he was the third string guy, and he was far better. I mean, the guy couldn't complete a 5-yard pass, and what really makes me nervous about that isn't about Buckner. It's more about Tommy Rees, that he really thought that this guy was going to come to Alabama and step in and be the guy to run the offense. If that's the case, if I'm Nick Saban, I'm going, you know what? I've got to. This season's going to be lost if this doesn't get fixed fast, and I'm looking at other solutions fast.
Yeah, and there's a really interesting story up on ESPN.com by Alex Scarborough, who digs deep into how Alabama got into this situation with the quarterbacks. And it seems to me that Rees and you probably got to throw Nick Saban in here too, that they were just slow to identify that Milroe and Simpson, they weren't progressing as quickly as they needed to in the off season. And so Alabama then is late getting to the transfer portal. And by that time, all of the elite guys are gone. And essentially, Alabama, I think they wanted, they could have gone after Sam Hartman. I bet they could have had Sam Hartman if they had really chased him earlier. I mean, they were tied to Drake May a little bit. He ended up staying at North Carolina, and that kid looks really good, by the way. And then there was Tyler Van Dyke, quarterback in Miami. There's speculation about that. And then, it's like kind of everybody was gone, and Buckner ends up being the guy, and Buckner wants to leave because he would have been Hartman's backup. I mean, so Alabama essentially took Notre Dame's backup. And again, this is a really fascinating story, but just what is your analysis of how we got here? And also, it's pretty clear that Bryce Young was able to conceal a lot of deficiencies in last year's offense, just with his sheer brilliant play, right? And now there's not a quarterback that is capable of doing that. I mean, but of course, Bryce Young, arguably the greatest quarterback in Alabama school history. Mick.
Yeah, look, he is the greatest in Alabama school history while he was at Alabama. But it's obvious now, but it was obvious last year. We watched the 8A game, and Dylan Lonergan was the best of the four. And he's like a true freshman, right? I mean, look, so when you look at this situation, it just feels like Alabama was late to figure out that this game of college football is changing. Or maybe they just didn't want to participate, a lot like Clemson right now. And I mean, I think Nick Saban knows what's going on. I mean, remember, he went to Birmingham, a couple years ago, and he was like, hey, you better start we better start ponying up some cash, pretty much. I mean, he didn't say it like that, but, he was talking about how these teams are going out and they're buying players, and that's what's happening. I mean, look at what Texas came to town with, and look at the amount of NIL money that they have. And, and it's not going to be long before Texas A&M's like that because they've got a lot of money, and for us to be able to compete, we're going to have to go out and still continue to recruit great players, 4- and 5-star guys, but you got to use the transfer portal to fill in those holes. It would have been nice to go get a killer offensive lineman to build the O-line around instead of having a true freshman out there that is just absolutely overwhelmed by what's going on the field. The year they won the national championship last, they got a center from Florida State. It'd be nice to have a guy that can snap the ball and give the quarterback a chance. I mean, that to me, this is 2 straight years where the snaps have been inconsistent. And you can't win a football game if you're constantly looking down. Jake Coker said something to me on our podcast that Jimbo Fisher told him. And he's like, you can't drive with your head down. And it's the same thing with quarterbacking. Those things used to get fixed at Alabama. And it just seems like issues like that are getting worse and worse. And now you're in a situation where you're looking at this team and you're going, this could be an absolute disaster if things don't get turned around in a hurry, which I give Nick Saban credit. He's always figured it out, but I think this is the toughest coaching job that he's ever had.
Yep, he's holding the rope too, standing by his team, I think as everyone would expect. Hey, you're listening to Big Noon Sports. Can you hang around, talk a little bit more about whether or not the sky truly is falling over in Tuscaloosa? And we got to talk some baseball. Is that okay, Mick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that. Mick Gillespie continues on break as we bring you Big Noon Sports, presented by Haley Sansing, Union Home Mortgage.
Weekday mornings at 6 a.m. The Martin Houston Show.
Join us tomorrow as we keep the conversation rolling right here on the Martin Houston Show on a Wild Card Wednesday. We'll look inside the playbook. We'll add Scotty Hollins to the conversation with the Harvest Church Christian Moment of the Week, as well as dig deeper into Saban's post-game comments on he was proud of the team's competitive spirit. Is he softening the blow? Is this a championship quality team? We'll talk about it right here on the Martin Houston Show.
Catch the Martin Houston Show from 6 to 7 weekday mornings on Tide 100.9.
Securing the best mortgage possible requires a lender who has knowledge, is trustworthy, and treats customers like family. And no one is better at all of this than the mortgage miracle worker, Haley Sansing. Based right here in Tuscaloosa, Haley Sansing has spent decades working in the mortgage industry. With Haley, it's personal, holding your hand from contract to close. With Haley, it's about one thing, you. Call Haley on her cell, yes, her cell, 205-792-1813. That's 205-792-1813. Let Haley help you.
NLMS number 230376.
On the next Inside the Locker Room with Coach Wimp Sanderson and Barry Sanderson.
Tune in Wednesday. We'll continue to look at the Ole Miss Alabama game this Saturday at 2:30. We also talk to Bill Cameron down at Auburn, find out about the Auburn Tigers traveling to Texas A&M for a road game against the Aggies.
Inside the Locker Room, weekdays 7 to 9 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A sunny, warm afternoon. The high today around 84. Clear tonight, the low 60. Tomorrow and Thursday, lots of sunshine both days. Highs between 84 and 87. And Friday, another sunny day with a high at 86 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 84 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
More Big Noon Sports coming up.
This is Big Noon Sports. Lars Anderson, Justin Jones is our captain once again, and Mick Gillespie joins us from Where are you doing postseason? Or it's the very end of the Southern League. Where are you? You calling a game tonight?
Yeah, we're in the playoffs. The Smokies are playing Chattanooga tonight at 7. So game 1 tonight, and then off tomorrow, and then games 2 and 3 Thursday and Friday, and then that's the first round, and then Sunday if we make the championship series back here at Smoky Stadium.
So it's the Battle of Tennessee, and if you're up there,
Tennessee.
it's not that long of a drive between the two stadiums.
No,
That's
made
that
it today.
section. The traffic on that interstate is not something we want to talk about. Okay. If you read social media, Nick Saban has lost all of his fastball. There are a lot of Alabama fans, and by the way, this is not unusual. They did the same thing to Paul William Bryant at one time. So, is the sky falling? That question for Mick Gillespie.
I'm not going to bet against Nick Saban. I mean, I just think that the assistant coaches aren't up to the caliber that he had in the past. And maybe not on the defensive side of the ball, but on the offensive side of the ball right now. I mean, I don't think that's even a shot at Tommy Rees, but he's not Steve Sarkisian, Bill O'Brien, or Lane Kiffin right now, or Mike Loxley. I mean, he's just not there yet. Doesn't mean he can't develop into that. But my biggest concern is Nick Saban works harder than anyone, and we all love him, and we're going to love him. I mean, he's a legend, and he's the best of all time. But sometimes you have to adapt to the changes that you see in the field. And one of those changes is that there's a lot of options of other guys who he's coached, been on his staff, or now have their own staff, that maybe don't work the same amount of hours and don't have the same demands that they have at Alabama. And if you're going to continue to get the best of the best, I think that's something that's definitely hurting him. And I've heard that from other people too, who have been around. I don't want to say who, but and so that's something that I think he needs to do. But if there's how many times have we thought that Alabama was going to be down and out, and then they come out of nowhere and they get it figured out? It's up to the players, and there's a lot of talent on that team, and maybe it's not Bryce Young at quarterback, but there's a lot of talent there. And if those guys decide that they want to get it done, they had a players-only meeting this week. If they decide that they're ready to be serious about this, if they're ready to put, aside all of their differences and unite as a team, no matter what they look like or where they come from, if they buy into that crimson and white, like all those other teams have. And that's why all the former players are getting upset, because they look at what's going on right now as really a threat to the legacy that they've left. If those guys that are in that locker room decide that they're going to buy into that, they have the talent to do something about it. And if they don't, Nick Saban can go out and pull a Deion Sanders and clear house and go and build a whole nother team, a whole nother roster with the rules that we have these days, and compete right away. So I'm not saying that the sky's falling. I just think that. And here's another point too, before I tell you, get down to Nick Saban, is that next year there's a lot more teams that are going to be in the playoff. You could lose 3 games, and so and potentially get in. So I don't think that we've seen the last of Nick Saban getting into the playoff, or the last of Nick Saban. I just think this year's team, which he says he still believes in, and you got to, because they've only lost 1 game, but those guys got to get it figured out. But at the end of the day, he's the legend, not them. And they're the ones that are going to have to buy in and get the job done. I just think that this year's team is the one I'm worried about. I'm not saying that the program's in trouble.
Man, that is some really good analysis, Mick. Want some more of it for Jalen Milroe and the Alabama offense. What is going to be the path to success on Saturday? Because Ole Miss is going to put up points. They're going to put up points, and I'm guessing it's going to take 31, 34 for Alabama. That is kind of might be close to the magic number of what they need to get to on offense. Where do you go from here? I mean, clearly, I would think you start with you got to tailor this offense to Milroe's strengths, correct?
Yeah. Well, I hope we see a lot of Roydell Williams. I thought he did a great job in the second half of the football game last week, helped Alabama establish the run. There were glimpses of the offensive line playing dominant football. They've actually done a good job of run blocking. Milroe's got to get in there, and he's got to lead. He can't look like a guy fighting for his job. He's got to look like the guy. And he's got to go in there and not turn the football over. Whether he's running the ball or throwing the ball, no turnovers. The other thing is the penalties. No, none of the stupid penalties anymore. Don't run down the field and touch a live punt. They've got to get rid of doing the stupid stuff that they never did until last year. And they've got to get back to playing that disciplined style of football that Alabama is known for. The one advantage that they have is that if you're Ole Miss, you really don't know what to expect. I mean, you're watching film and, Alabama's been all over the place. I mean, what do you prepare for, right? We'll see what kind of offense Tommy Rees puts together, but I would think, figuring out some RPOs to work for, to Milroe, set up design runs, which is where he's super effective. Like I said, Roydell Williams played well. Chase McClellan's a good player. You got all those running backs that can help you. And, figure out a way to get guys in space and let them make plays. And on defense, I love the fact that Lane Kiffin is trying to, play mind games again over who's the defensive coordinator and who's not. I think that is significant because that's definitely right up the Lane Kiffin playbook alley. And I know it irritates Nick Saban. I mean, Nick Saban's not a normal guy. No one could win this much if they were normal. Things like that are distractions to him. I mean, he came right out in the press conference and mentioned that on Monday, and he probably should have not mentioned it because, and then Lane Kiffin doubles down, and now you're in all this stuff. Look, who cares what Lane Kiffin thinks as far as who the defensive coordinator is? But the fact that you address that, you play right into to Lane Kiffin's hands. And the thing about Nick Saban that you guys know is that he doesn't like distractions and he doesn't like nonsense. And Lane Kiffin is both of those things.
So true.
Yeah, but they got to run the ball. I mean, I just think it comes down to running the ball and stopping the run and getting pressure on Jackson Dart. Alabama's secondary, if they can get some pressure on quarterbacks, that secondary is going to do some really fun stuff when they start picking off balls. It's got to get there.
Hey, Mick, we got 60 seconds here. Just let everybody know it's okay. You'll lose 4 in a row after you cap off a record-breaking division capturing season. It's okay, right, Mick?
Yeah, I do think it's all right. I think the Braves are just kind of putting themselves in a spot right now where they're getting everyone healthy and rested. And, obviously these games really don't matter to them much. They're not playing for anything until that postseason starts. I think the Braves have a great chance to win the World Series, and so does Vegas.
Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Tell everybody where they can listen to you.
Yeah. Check me out. Bama Tailgate on YouTube. Going to be out in front of Unique, which is the sports bar on the Strip, right where Egan's used to be, doing the show 5 to 7 on Friday. Come by and have a cold ding with us. And also post-game show on Bama Tailgate on YouTube.
Great stuff, Mick. Thanks for your time.
Roll Tide.
Indeed. Roll Tide. When we get back, some news from I got to read more about this during the break, but Lars has just come up with this story about Danica Patrick. And
it's disturbing. It's really disturbing.
It's very. Yeah. It's, golly. Did she really do this? Hey, we're coming back in just a couple of minutes on Big Noon Sports, presented by Haley Sansing Union Home Mortgage.
Looking for a...
It's the Tide 100.9 30K Workday Payday. Woo! Win cash every weekday 8 to 5. Here's this hour's cash code.
357. Again, that's 357. The code is 357.
Enter that code now on the Tide 100.9 app. Click on the 30K payday button and enter the code for a chance to win $30,000.
This is the Big Noon Sports Network.
Hey, back on the show. It is Big Noon Sports presented by Haley Sansing Union Home Mortgage. It's Matt and Lars and Justin. Justin, we have not spoken to you. Just quickly, how are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm actually wearing a sweatshirt. I was surprised at how cool it was this morning, again, for the second day.
How low did it get last night? I really don't know. 60?
I think around 60, yes, sir.
Yeah, it was very pleasant. Lars, I am catching up on the story you mentioned, and I am beyond words. I mean, Danica Patrick is just mean.
Okay, so before we get into our feelings about Danica, let's just, and we both know her really well. I wrote 2 cover stories on Danica, spent a lot of time with Danica over the years. So here's what happened. Essentially, Danica has come out, and it's quite obvious she is not a fan of Martin Truex Jr., a longtime NASCAR driver. And it's funny, I still think of Martin as like this young kid, and now he's been in the sport for 2 decades, but. And I've always really gotten along well with Martin through my relationship with Dale Jr. Dale and Martin are best buddies. And so, anyway, Martin, really good, terrific championship-winning NASCAR driver. And he dated this woman named Sherry Pollux for nearly 2 decades. And Sherry was a fixture in the NASCAR community, has been over the last decade, because she has been battling ovarian cancer, a long battle. And she spent, like I said, about a decade fundraising efforts to fight the disease. And it was last week, the event that she's most known for, and it's a NASCAR charity gala called a Catwalk for a Cause. It was held last week, and Sherry Pollux, Truex's longtime girlfriend, and she wasn't in attendance. And so at that point, sort of everybody in the NASCAR community knew that Sherry was, in pretty dire shape. And so Sherry Pollux and Martin Truex, again, they dated for nearly 2 decades, but they broke up earlier this year. And, I don't know the reason. It's really none of my business. It's just they broke up. They'd been together for like 19 years, and they broke up. And then Sherry, sadly, passed away on Sunday at the age of 44. And so her family puts out a statement just saying, what happened, and gave the news of her passing. And then that caused almost everyone who's prominent in the NASCAR community to post something on social media about Martin Truex's longtime girlfriend, Sherry Pollux, who passed away. And Martin put out a statement, and then on Instagram, okay. So Martin's statement it's just a nice statement about Sherry's passion for life and making a difference for others, and trying to help others through her fundraising. And he extended his condolences to the family, and just said that her family has shown great strength and resilience throughout her battle. Well, Danica, I less than 24 hours after Sherry had passed away, Danica goes on to Instagram, and Matt, it blows my mind what she wrote. She said, "This is directly what she wrote. I avoid negativity on social at almost all cost, almost. But this is the most sensitive, disconnected statement from a guy that I have never liked." And she's referring to the statement that I just summarized, right? The statement from Martin Truex that he put out on his social about Sherry, his longtime girlfriend, who just passed away. And then Danica goes, she writes, continues, "But this is the most insensitive, disconnected statement from a guy that I've never liked. And obviously for good reason. I don't care what happened between them, but this is as cold as it gets. A PR rep wrote this guaranteed. You're free from this now, Sherry." And she puts a heart at the end of this. And just to attack Martin Truex Jr. less than 24 hours after the woman he spent 2 decades with? I mean, Matt.
It's callous at best.
There is no justification for this.
Is there another statement floating out there that we haven't seen? Because the next paragraph in this particular story said Patrick did not specifically mention what she was talking about between Truex and Pollux. Truex's statement appeared to be as touching as anyone else's. It's just hard to believe that someone could be this. It's just callous. It's beyond rude. It's just unacceptable.
I'm sure Danica knows more about the relationship between Martin and Sherry than most people, that obviously she's not happy with Martin Truex Jr. But to come out like this is really just so inappropriate and so off key. I don't understand why Danica would do this. It really it just blows the mind that Danica would come out and say this over social media.
You know what it sounds like, and I'll step out there. It sounds like a woman scorned. To me, that's exactly what it sounds like, and she's fighting back in the dirtiest way humanly possible. And I don't think people are going to forget this.
Not in the NASCAR. I mean, you and I we know the NASCAR community, right? And we were prominent members of it for a long time, and you still are. It's a very small, close-knit community. I mean, and really the motorsports world in general in the United States is. And this is, you're right. I mean, this very well could be an unforgivable sin. And I don't understand. I mean, I never talked to Sherry Pollux, but she was always around. She was always with Martin, hanging out either in the hauler or at the bus, and always with him on pit road. And they were together certainly a lot longer. A lot of my relationships have lasted, but I don't. There's obviously there's more to this story than we know, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean anything to me. Like, Danica, what are you doing? And Danica and I have always been good with one another, and I wouldn't call us friends or anything, but we've had dinner a bunch of times, and I never saw this side of her. I mean, I don't think anybody has. So I'm not sure what to make of this whole story, other than I just wanted to bring it up and just point it out. It's just it's tragic of Sherry Pollux passing, and then for Danica to come out and use this as a way to attack Martin is just incomprehensible to me.
I agree. I cannot understand it, and it would be in very, very poor taste a month or two from now. But to do it 24 hours after the death of this extraordinary philanthropic lady, I just can't see it. And I was always under the impression, and maybe witnessed an incident or two that would verify it, but they acted like they liked Danica, but I don't think many of them really did. I think she was a bit of a prima donna. She was very self-centered, and she also seemed very self-entitled, even though she never won a race.
What was Aaron Rodgers thinking? I mean, I don't want to say what I should say, but I don't see how Aaron Rodgers, who hosts Celebrity Jeopardy, what he would see in Danica, if you catch my drift.
I understand, but in some ways, I think they're perfect for each other. They're both a little bit wacko. Maybe they get into that sensation tube or whatever it is and eat peyote and,
They broke up a while back, but I didn't understand.
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
well, Lars, Aaron Rodgers' family is also, that's another topic around him.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're right. I don't think he's talked to anybody in his immediate family for years, right?
I don't think so.
That always saddens me.
And I have a quick question as well. Did Martin Truex, as I'm doing my research, just like you guys were on this whole Danica Patrick situation, did they split and separate Sherry Pollux and Martin Truex in January of this year? Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah. So they broke up.
They remain good friends, though.
It certainly appeared to be. Yeah, they appeared to be good friends.
I'm just I feel like there's got to be something we don't know, because
absolutely
that timing is very strange to me. If you have a wife with cancer, but of course I feel like Danica shouldn't have commented on it in the first place.
What possible inference, Lars, help me with my verbiage, could she have gotten from what appeared to me to be a very loving, heartwarming post about his girlfriend, former girlfriend?
Well, she, look, her PR person, Haley, you've known her for years, and I've known, and Haley, like, she writes everything that Danica puts out. And look, this isn't unique. All high profile people, not just athletes, but actors, and they all have publicists who write statements. And I don't care if it was a publicist who wrote this statement or not. It certainly Martin talked to. If it was a publicist, who cares? I mean, Martin would have told the publicist what to write. And look,
it's got her name attached to it.
To me, it seems like she is saying that, Martin, you're a horrible person because you broke up with this woman when she was really sick, and maybe she's implying, that there was inappropriate behavior by someone. I don't know. I don't know what the point of this is, but clearly she is angry at Martin Truex Jr.
Boy, is she ever.
That really is wild. I don't know. Maybe I'll shoot Danica a text and ask her.
Yeah. Her PR person will.
Yeah, I don't think Haley would like that too much.
I bet Haley doesn't like this at all.
No. I hope Danica.
I hope
I hope Danica just stays off social media, because she is just getting filleted on Instagram, on Twitter, on X, and on every type of venue. Boy, she just really bad judgment there by Danica.
Lars, unknowingly, you have come up with a topic of the day, and I'm going to ask it, and we're going to line up the opinions on the phone lines at 205-342-9904. You're listening to Big Noon Sports, presented by Haley Sansing, Union Home Mortgage.
We're Lee Thompson is known as the Bama Broker. She's a Tuscaloosa native, an Alabama graduate, and the only realtor in town with Wall Street experience. A skilled negotiator, Laura Lee knows how to buy low and sell high. And the Bama Broker isn't just going to show you houses. No, Laura Lee is going to educate you on the market, guide you to homes that fit your budget, and teach you how to sell your home for its maximum profit. Throughout the entire process, the Bama Broker will equip you with the tools you need to both buy a home and build financial wealth through home ownership. Trust me, the Bama Broker, who's as roll-tide as houndstooth, will get you across the goal line. That's Laura Lee Thompson, the Bama Broker with Advantage Realty Group. You can reach her at 205-790-7229. Again, that's 205-790-7229. And you can also email her at lauralee@thebamabroker.com. That's Laura Lee @thebamabroker.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A sunny, warm afternoon. The high today around 84. Clear tonight, the low 60. Tomorrow and Thursday, lots of sunshine both days. Highs between 84 and 87. And Friday, another sunny day with a high at 86 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 86 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering SEC sports like kudzu on the roadside. This is Big Noon Sports.
Hey, welcome into the program. Jump on the phones and join us in this discussion. 205-342-9904. Just about half an hour ago when we were talking with Mick Gillespie, both of you said that Bryce Young is I don't want to misquote anybody, but you both agreed that Bryce Young was the greatest quarterback in the history of Alabama.
Yes.
Did I read that right?
Yeah.
I would maintain that, and by the way, this is a conversation. I'm not being negative about Bryce Young. He was absolutely fabulous and will develop to that level again in the National Football League. But I would give some cause to think about A.J. McCarron. Are people going, whoa? A.J. McCarron has more passing yardage, more touchdowns. He has 77 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. He is the leading Alabama passer as far as yards by over 1,000 over John Parker Wilson. And something that Bryce will never have, he has a national championship. No, wait, he has 2. Am I going to get a lot of pushback on that statement?
No. I think you definitely can make that case. And, he had a lot of talent around him, AJ did, and he started 3 full seasons. He was a member of 3 national title winning teams. He has 3 rings. He was a quarterback on 2 of them, as you mentioned. And then you look at his stats, and over 9,000 passing yards, 77 touchdowns. This is incredible. Only 15 interceptions. Yeah. 77 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. And he's had the career of a NFL journeyman, right? He's just kind of bounced around the league, and I was really happy when Cincinnati drafted him, I believe, in the 5th round, and he when Andy Dalton went down and AJ had to come in late one season, I think it's in his 2nd or 3rd year. Bengals get to the playoffs, and AJ plays well enough. There was a late touchdown pass to AJ Green, and then that's when Vontaze Burfict and Pac-Man Jones just absolutely imploded, and it was like personal foul, and with they moved down the length of the field in about 10 seconds and end up beating AJ in Cincinnati, but. So, I mean, I think he had a pretty decent NFL career. And, he was just so good at Alabama. He just made Alabama didn't need him to do much, but he would make clutch throw after a clutch throw after clutch throw. Like if Alabama is a 3rd and 11, AJ would figure out a way to, just throw. He didn't have the strongest arm in the world, but he could throw a dart over to the sideline and get you 11 and a half yards. And how well he played in that 2011 national championship game in Louisiana, in New Orleans against LSU. And he was, to me, yes, okay, I amend. Like, to me, the greatest sort of quarterback in Alabama history, I would say A.J. McCarron. The most talented quarterback, Bryce Young.
You said something that is very, very true, and that's about your supporting cast. And I don't think anybody could argue that A.J. had a much better one than did Bryce Young. But, as I continue to look here, Tua Tagovailoa, he threw for almost 7,500 yards. Listen to his touchdown to interception ratio. 87 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. And then, if you want to do another dive, how about Mac Jones? 56 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions, over 6,000 yards. He's 5th. In just terms of yardage passed for, it goes A.J. McCarron by 1,000, 19. And then John Parker Wilson is 2nd, Tua 3rd. Brody Coyle still ranks up there at number 4, and then Mac Jones. And you can make arguments for a lot of those guys.
Well, what about who's the player that Bear Bryant called the greatest athlete he ever coached?
Joe Willie Namath.
Yes, and but it was a totally different game back then. Namath had 24 touchdown passes and 15 on the ground in his 3 seasons of playing for Alabama. His last season, 1964, ended with Alabama winning the national championship. And I think you can make the argument that Namath's success at Alabama is really what is where he learned how to win titles. And that really propelled the Jets to pull off the huge upset in Super Bowl III. Right, that ended with Namath wagging the number 1 sign over his head as he jogged off the field in a very iconic moment. Yes, so I mean that's going way back, but just this recent run of quarterbacks that Alabama has had has certainly spoiled everybody here, because Alabama just. They hit on all of these guys, and Mac Jones came in as a 3-star, and he really developed, and Jalen Hurts really developed, and of course there's Tua, and then you have Young, and so that the run of 4 quarterbacks, they all received Heisman Trophy votes. They all were just elite. They're all starting in the NFL right now. It's really just amazing how they hit on everything, and again, I mean, I think you can go back to the class of 2021, the recruiting class. Jalen Milroe was not Alabama's first pick; it was Drake May, and they had him. He committed. But then he decommitted in March of 2020, and he opts to sign with North Carolina. And so Alabama they take Milroe again, not their first pick, and then I think what happened was, after going through all of spring practice, Saban and Tommy Rees were hoping that either Milroe or Simpson would really separate themselves, and that didn't happen. And then, so they figure, okay, we got to go transfer portal. Well, Sam Hartman was already gone. Brennan Armstrong had already gone to North Carolina State. Kentucky got Devin Leary, right, who broke Phillip Rivers' single-season school record for touchdowns at NC State. Ole Miss got Spencer Sanders, who was an all Big 12 player at Oklahoma State. And they also got Walker Howard, who was a former 5-star at LSU. And, Alabama, everybody was gone. They were just they were too late to the party. And so you end up with Buckner. And we saw what happened last week. And I don't think we will see much of Tyler Buckner the rest of the year. And, Simpson, I think that he just he perhaps hasn't developed as quickly as they'd hoped. And so, you're in this kind of a pickle, so to speak. And look, in Jalen Milroe, the thing is, he was recruited by Sark, right? And Sark was really good with the RPOs. But then 2 weeks after Milroe signs, Sark goes to Texas. And then when he had Bill O'Brien for the last 3 years, and now he's a starting quarterback at Alabama, and O'Brien's gone. And also Alex Mortensen, who we've talked about before, he was kind of an analyst who really worked with the quarterbacks, the son of Chris Mortensen. He's an amazing coach, and he left to join the UAB staff with Trent Dilfer. And so, Milroe's there's been a lot of upheaval around him. And without that consistency, I think it's just been hard for him to develop. I mean, it certainly hasn't helped, right? And he throws a really beautiful deep ball. I mean, we've seen that, saw that in both of his starts, but he struggles with the intermediate passing, and that's not something that is going to be fixed overnight. And so what does Reese have to do? I think we've talked about it, Matt. He has to tailor the offense to the strengths of his player. Because right now, you look at, I think from the 2019 season to now, the use of the RPO is down almost 10%. And that's according to a ESPN story by Alex Scarborough that I talked about earlier. It's an excellent breakdown of the Alabama quarterback situation and the history and sort of how we got here. But I think I think the collective decision has been made by the coaching staff that Jalen Milroe is the quarterback. There's no more debate. He's our guy. So therefore, you got to change the offense to make sure you put him in a position to succeed. Don't have him dropping back and don't have him be a classic pocket passer on 2nd and 5. Run the ball.
Lars, let's get an opinion from Macon, Georgia. Let's go to George in Macon. How you doing, George? Do you want to talk quarterbacks?
Yeah. First off, to me, my favorite quarterback, of course, when you have the success that Alabama has had, you got 10 or 15 of them that any of them could be it. But I would say Kenny Stabler. I just remember him back in '65 as a sophomore when freshmen couldn't play. He played some. And then I guess 1966 was the greatest year in my mind, the best team I have seen Alabama have. And he just didn't make mistakes. And I remember somebody asked Bear Bryant, what would you do if Kenny Stabler ran the triple option? He said, you'd have to put another digit on the scoreboard because he could run, he could pass, and he was a great pro. I guess he is one of my favorites. And as far as Milroe, I truly think that he can get the job done. He just has to have enough. First off, just like we said, I mean, Tommy Reese, of course, you know my opinion on him. He can't evaluate quarterbacks, obviously. He needs to tailor-make the offense to what your quarterback does better or what, any player does better. I don't understand the resistance of doing that. I mean, you're not going to you can't make an elephant fly. You know what I'm saying? He is a fantastic athlete, and if I hear he's the fastest guy on the team one more time, I think I'm just going to pass out because that's all I hear.
He's not.
But,
he's not
those are the things. Yeah, people are saying he's as fast as Ruggs. No way. No way.
No, they documented his best 40 time. I think I saw an article, George, that said it was a 4.6. That's not the fastest guy on the team.
So why are they saying that?
I don't know. Build him up, get his confidence going, make him think he can run a 4.4. I really don't know, but people have been saying that for 2 years.
You don't have time to really look down the receiver so the defensive back can react to it. It's a quick pass, or he runs, because you're putting that linebacker and that defensive end in conflict, because they got to figure out what you're going to do, and that's what you want to do in any offense. Whoever you're attacking, put them in conflict. But I'm serious as I can be. If Tommy Rees is putting his head in his hands this weekend, I think somebody ought to just fire him on the spot, because that's not giving any type of confidence to the team or the other coaches. I mean, don't you agree with that?
Well,
maybe not fire him on the spot, but give him another position.
His play calling has been less than I expected, but a lot of things go into that. You know, whether or not somebody's picking up the blitz, whether or not they're handling the blitz along the offensive line. We'll see how it continues to work out. George, you're a great caller. We appreciate you dialing us in from Macon, Georgia. Have a wonderful evening.
You take care. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely. Hey, Lars, you are the athletic director at Michigan State. What you going to do? You're listening to Big Noon Sports.
Built to win.
Touchdown, Alabama!
Built for championships.
Throws intercepted, Alabama.
Built by Bama.
Alabama is still Alabama.
The Crimson Tide play here. Join us Saturday as the Crimson Tide kick off SEC play against Ole Miss. Our coverage begins at 11:30 on your home for Alabama football.
Brought to you by Birmingham Racecourse. BirminghamRacecourse.com. You can be a winner too.
Securing the best mortgage possible requires a lender who has knowledge, is trustworthy, and treats customers like family. And no one is better at all of this than the mortgage miracle worker, Haley Sansing. Based right here in Tuscaloosa, Haley Sansing has spent decades working in the mortgage industry. With Haley, it's personal, holding your hand from contract to close. With Haley, it's about one thing, you. Call Haley on her cell, yes, her cell, 205-792-1813. That's 205-792-1813. Let Haley help you.
NLMS number 230376.
Hey, this is Reagan, owner of R&R Cigars, the Cigar Mansion in downtown Tuscaloosa, located at 2703 6th Street across from the Home 2 Suites. Come down to R&R and see why we're the ultimate cigar and bourbon experience. With over 165 bourbons and 5 private barrels, our selection of bourbon is unmatched. We have the best cocktails around, and our cigar selection is legendary. Our lounge and service are world-class. Come and experience the luxury of the mansion and see why it's a world-renowned cigar and spirits destination.
The best sports talk in Alabama. This is Big Noon Sports.
Lars Anderson, Matt Coulter, Justin Jones, and you on the phone lines at 205-342-9904. In fact, let's go to Joseph, who has dialed in. Joseph, how are you today?
Very good. How you doing, man?
Fantastic.
Great.
I got a question for y'all. My question is, what if we go to lose 2 or 3 games, Alabama does, with Jalen Milroe, and this kid's got 2 years of eligibility left, and Julian Sagan's coming in next year, and the team wants Milroe to start. They won't play for nobody but Milroe. So let me ask you this. What do you do? What do you do if this kid starts for 2 more years and you have to lose for 2 more years?
Well, I would think if Julian Sayin, and I've heard a lot about Sayin, if he comes in and he literally beats him out, then you start the best guy. I mean, isn't that always the goal? Just finding him sometimes is difficult.
I mean, that's the goal. But what if the team don't want to play for nobody? Like, you know what? We ain't going to play for nobody but Miro. Like, they can say, we're not going to block for this kid, or we're not going to catch for this kid. We're going to make this kid look bad because we want our guy.
Joseph, the direction you're headed is very, very clear, and I don't know that it has gotten to that point. So I'm not going to assume that it has, and just hope that Jalen Milroe rushes for 120 and passes for 290 against Ole Miss.
Because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, people are going to figure out Milroe, and they're going to make him throw. That's not a question. Eventually, he's going to have to throw. People are, well, he can run. We can run his way. No, eventually somebody's going to make him throw and figure him out. I mean, that's just life. I mean, if you as a quarterback, you got to be able to throw. I mean, you got to be able to read the defense. You got to be able to check down. You got to be able to change the play. And eventually, somebody's going to make him do that. And when they do, we lose.
Who's to say that he doesn't gain experience and he's coached up to where he does start completing those the 10 to 20 yarders?
Well, let's just say, man, when I watched that Texas game, them two ugly picks that you better don't get no uglier than that. Them bad picks, man.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Those are really two just terrible throws, and he is telegraphing where he's going with the ball, and it's pretty clear that right now he's a one-read quarterback, and if that read isn't there, there's trouble. If the first read isn't open, it's tough because he's, for whatever reason, not progressing through to go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And the really great quarterbacks can sometimes even get to 5. But it's just it's the processing of information. Joe Burrow will tell you that his greatest strength is deciphering what the defense is going to be doing pre-snap based on formation, based on film study, based on down and distance and where the ball is on the field. And there is a lot of information to process. And if you just take a 3-step drop, and I've written about this with Bruce Arians, before you get to that third step, there's about 20 decisions you need to, or 20 bits of information that you have accumulated, the good quarterbacks, and the good ones get that ball out in under 3 seconds. Right? Because then that's what Alabama needs to do. They desperately need to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand because the offensive line is not holding up. And we even saw that they can hold up against South Florida. And it's going to get worse probably before it gets better. So I hear what you're saying. Like but I think he gives you the best chance to win. And yes, at some point, and probably at some point is going to be on Saturday, he is going to have to make a series of throws from the pocket. But, the issue is it's when the play doesn't go as designed, right? And he has to go off script. And that happens more than 50% of the time in the NFL and a little bit less than 50% of the time in college football. And so then what do? You go to 2, you go to 3 read, and you just then if nothing's there, try to use your athleticism and make something out of nothing. But those throws that he made against Texas, they revealed a bigger issue, right? It wasn't just the fact that he was throwing off his back foot and he was staring down receivers. It's just it's the deciphering of information that is what I think what the struggle is there, Matt. And that's just not something you can fix overnight. You can try to game plan to mitigate the deficiencies of your quarterback, but at some point, the caller was right. Like, he's going to have to be able to make those throws, Matt.
Yeah, and I think he can be coached into it.
I agree.
Evidently, that's not Joseph's opinion, but we'll see. He's the starter. Saban's nailed it, and they're going to move on with it. Meanwhile, Michigan State has announced that it is in the process of firing Mel Tucker for cause in the wake of sexual harassment scandal. I've got questions about that, and then Lars is going to have to decide when this does happen who's taking over. You're listening to Big Noon Sports, brought to you, presented by Haley Sansing, Union Home Mortgage. Back in just a minute.
Catch Christian and Corey Miller every weekday here on Tide 100.9.
This is Christian Miller, former Alabama linebacker and Crimson Tide Sports Network sideline reporter.
And this is the Pastor Payne of the Miller's Edge. Coming up tomorrow on the program, we'll rush around the SEC. We'll take a closer look at Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, plus your phone calls. That's coming up tomorrow on the Miller's Edge.
Tune in 11 to noon to hear Christian and Corey Miller break down everything from college to the pros on Tide 100.9, the home of Alabama sports.
Hi, Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A sunny, warm afternoon. The high today around 84. Clear tonight, the low 60. Tomorrow and Thursday, lots of sunshine both days. Highs between 84 and 87. And Friday, another sunny day with a high at 86 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 85 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
From T-Town to the Plains, this is Alabama's most in-depth analysis on the SEC. This is Big Noon Sports.
It is Big Noon Sports. Matt, Justin, Lars. As I just told you going to the break, and everyone's familiar with this story, so I'm not going to go into the sordid details. But in the wake of a sexual harassment scandal, Michigan State has announced that they are now in the process of firing Coach Tucker for cause. Okay. I look at that announcement two different ways. Why do you have to announce that and just said he's suspended without pay upon further investigation and let it go? Well, my suspicion, Lars, is that Michigan State has received so much criticism that they felt they had to step up and let them know, okay, we're working on getting rid of this problem. Have I read? I think I've read that correctly, right?
Yeah, there's a process that you have to go through, a formal process when you fire a coach with cause. And so the school announced yesterday that it informed Tucker that it is going to fire him with cause. And so he also said that he has 7 calendar days to respond and present reasons to the school why he shouldn't be fired. And again, this goes back to a Title IX complaint filed against Mel Tucker by Brenda Tracy, who's a anti-sexual assault activist who's contracted to work with the football team. And Tucker has contended that they had a consensual relationship, and he has said that. Yeah, we don't need to get into the details, but Tucker, he's saying he's not denying anything, but he put out a statement and said, quote, there are other motives at play, and he doesn't believe Michigan State plans to fire him because he admitted to an entirely consensual private relationship with another adult who gave one presentation at Michigan State at my behest over 2 years ago. And that he alleges that Tracy manufactured false allegations against him. But, so it's a mess. And I think Mel Tucker, one way or another, he's coached his last game at Michigan State, which is quite the fall for someone who was given, what was it, like a 10-year, $95 million contract?
$95 million.
Yeah.
He's gone 20 and 14 since.
Yeah. So then you're asking, who could be the next head coach at Michigan State. Well,
first of all, let me stop right here.
Yeah.
If his record had been is 33-1, I don't know. I just tried to do the math there real quick. If he's just won a national championship, are they looking into firing him?
I don't know.
Okay, let's go. Let's go.
No, I mean, I just don't think that there's a clear-cut answer there, because the Michigan State, it's like the people there have been through the collective trauma of that athletic trainer, or the doctor who was affiliated with the school, who did all these horrible things. And so I think if there's a whiff of sexual misconduct, I even, no matter how successful you are in that environment in East Lansing, I don't know if he could survive. I don't know. I mean, the cynical reporter in me be like, well, of course they wouldn't pursue this, because he is generating so much money for the school and bringing publicity to the school. If he had guided Michigan State to their first ever national championship in college football, but I would like to think that they would do the right thing, and it seems like they're doing the right thing now. But we don't know all the facts of the case, and but
probably never will.
No, and the thing is, like, the burden here is not innocent. It's not innocent until proven guilty. When you're working for, I guess, when you would be in Mel Tucker's situation here, like, he really has to prove his innocence. And I don't, Mel Tucker, if I were him, I wouldn't fight this. Just exit the stage and see what opportunities could be out there for you in the future. Maybe take a year off, but yeah. So other candidates to think about at Michigan State, I think Pat Narduzzi, head coach at Pitt. He's had some success there in the ACC, and he was a longtime defensive coordinator at Michigan State. And there's so much television money flowing into the Big Ten compared to the ACC that I think a successful ACC coach would jump at the opportunity to go to the Big Ten. And I think another coach they're going to look at is Mark Stoops at Kentucky. Would Stoops go to Michigan State? I mean, I don't know, because he's had so much success at Kentucky. He's in his 11th year there. He's the 2 10-win seasons since 2018, 7 straight bowl games. I mean, he has taken that program to a level that I didn't think he could ever get to. And
I think that's less than lateral move for Stoops.
Is it? I don't know. It's
yeah. As the state of the program right now.
Yeah, and he's. I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he would be ready for a change of scenery. I mean, Mark Stoops he's so beloved in Lexington. I don't know. That's just the name that's being thrown around. And same Mike Elko, head coach at Duke.
That's where I'd go.
Yeah, he's got a defensive background. And that's what they want at Michigan State. Kind of all their big time coaches there really have been defensive guys, and you're right. I mean, with Elko at Duke, they've exceeded expectations, and it's a difficult job, hard to win there. But he's also only in his second season as head coach, and doesn't have any experience in the Big Ten. But I think if I were the AD at Michigan State, Elko would be the guy that I'd target. Because here's the other thing. I did want to ask you this. Do you think if you are running a big time program like Michigan State. And Michigan State it's a big-time program. Would you go the route of like the hot young assistant who's never been a head coach, or would you try to find the head coach at a young head coach at a school that has had success? Because I've just seen it at Nebraska. Like whenever Nebraska's hired an assistant coach to become a head coach, it fails. Like if you're a big time program, I think you need a guy with experience. And but Elko, he fits the bill because he's running the program at Duke. I don't know. Where do you go with this?
I go Elko. I would also, in response to the suggestion of Stoops, I would say you need to look and see what his contract is now. He's making $9 million a year.
Yeah, man.
And certainly Michigan State, money doesn't seem to be a huge object after, hiring or extending his contract $9.5 million a year. But it's a big mess. And it turns out it's going to be a huge he said, she said. On that note, why don't we break away for about 22 hours, Lars? Talk to you tomorrow.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed day. And always, thank you to Justin Jones, who's just in there, Mr. Consistency, every day. Y'all have a great day.
Join